Okay, there it is. All right, guys, we are back in action with your favorite math channel ever. All right, yesterday we did point slope formula part 1, and you guys did awesome on it. Okay, today we're going to do part 2, and I think you'll like this one. This one has a little bit extra of a step, so make sure you pay really close attention to these notes. Make sure you get this written in your table of contents. A lot of you will have to flip over to the next page, and that's just what's been done here. This is a fresh page on our table of contents. All right, and let's go ahead and change over to page 46. And on page 46, we have some notes already written for you. So if you'll just go ahead and take a second, pause your video, and write this stuff down. All right, make sure you're ready to pay really close attention. See you later.
Okay, so today, instead of being given a point and a slope, you're going to be given 2 points. So when you're given 2 points, the first thing you have to do is use the slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then the next thing you're going to do is pick a point. You can pick whichever point you want, the first one or the second one. And then after you pick a point, you use the slope that you found in step 1 and the point that you picked in step 2, and you're going to plug it into the point slope formula, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So now that you have that written, if you'll go ahead, and you can just go ahead and space this out and write these 4 problems. These are all of the examples today. I'm going to go a little bit slower so that way you can see how to do this. And if you have any questions, you can just stop the video and ask me as you're going. Okay, so for every problem, so for problem 1, I've got -3, 7, and 1, -1. This is my x1 and my y1. This is my x2 and my y2. The first thing I'm going to do is use the slope formula. So we're going to do y2, which is -1 minus y1, which is 7, over x2 is 1 minus, and x1 is -3. Okay, once you have that and you've plugged it in, you can either, your choice, grab your calculator, and you can do alpha y equals -1 minus 7 over 1 minus -3 and get your answer, which is -2. Or you could do this by hand. And if you were to do it by hand, I'm going to show it over here on the side, and I'm going to show it in pink because you don't have to do this by hand. But -1 minus 7 is -8. And 1 minus -3, since that's a double negative, I would change the signs, which gives me a 4. And -8 divided by 4 is -2. So either way you do it, it will work. Okay, so if you use the calculator, just know this number is your M. And now you just need to pick one of your points. And it doesn't matter which point you pick. You can pick either point, whichever one you like better. I tend to pick points with smaller numbers. So I'm going to circle this second point because it has smaller numbers. And now I'm going to take this point and that slope, and I'm going to plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So here we go. Y minus y1, since it's labeled y2, but this is the point I'm using, so I'm going to do -1 equals, the slope is -2 times x minus, and the x is 1. The first thing you have to do is change those double negatives, which is right at the front, and now distribute. -2 times x is -2x, and -2 times -1 is +2. Then you bring down y plus 1 equals, and to get y by itself, you're just going to subtract 1. Make sure you subtract that 1 from the constant, not the variable, and you get -2x plus 1, and that's your final answer. Okay, for example 2, I got x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to plug in y2 minus y1. That's -6 minus -1, y2 minus y1, over x2 minus x1 would be 4 minus 2. Okay, you can do this by hand or you can do it by calculator. If you're going to do it by calculator, you do alpha y equals -6 minus -1 over 4 minus 2, and it simplifies it for you, and you get -5 over 2. If you're going to do it by hand, that's also okay. This is my M. And I'm going to this time pick 2 -1 to use because that point is smaller and easier. So we're going to do y minus, the y is -1, equals the slope that I found was negative 5 over 2 times x minus 2. I'm going to change my double negative and I'm going to distribute. Negative 5 over 2 times x is negative 5 over 2x. Negative 5 over 2 times negative 2. I'm going to do alpha y equals negative 5 over 2 times negative 2, and I get positive 5. Okay, now I bring down y plus 1. To get y by itself, you must subtract the 1. When you subtract 1, you get y equals negative 5 over 2x, and 5 minus 1 is 4, and that's my answer. Okay, for the last two examples, this is my x1 and my y1, my x2 and my y2. I'm going to plug in the formula. We're going to do negative 1 minus negative 3 over negative 4 minus negative 6. Alpha y equals in your calculator, negative 1 minus negative 3, and negative 4 minus negative 6, and that simplifies down to 1. This is m, and this time I'm going to pick negative 4, negative 1, because 1s are just way easier to work with. So I'm going to do y minus, and the y that I picked was negative 1 equals, m is 1 times x minus, and the x that I picked was negative 4. The first thing I'm going to do is fix my double negatives. Okay, now I distribute. 1 times x is 1x, and 1 times 4 is 4. I bring down my y plus 1 equals. To get y by itself, I'm going to subtract the 1, and that gives me y equals 1x plus 3, and that's my answer. Okay, last example. This is my x1 and my y1. This is my x2 and my y2. So when I plug in the slope formula, we're going to get negative 4 minus negative 7 over 3 minus negative 6. I'm going to grab my calculator and do alpha y equals, enter, negative 4 minus negative 7 over 3 minus negative 6, which gives me 1/3. And then I'm going to pick a point. I'm going to pick 3, negative 4 this time because those numbers are smaller than 6 and 7. So I'm going to do y minus, and the y I picked was negative 4, equals 1/3 times x minus, and the x that I picked is 3. The first thing I'm going to do is change my double negative, and now I'm going to distribute. 1/3 times x is 1/3 x, and 1/3 times negative 3. So if you need to do this in your calculator, open up a fraction and do 1/3 times negative 3, and that gives you negative 1. Bring down y plus 4, and you must subtract your 4 to get it to the other side. So you get y equals 1/3 x minus 5. Now, when you're doing these, you can see I picked the second point. I picked the first point. I picked the second point. I picked the second point. Whichever point you pick, you'll get the same answer as long as you do your math correct. If you have any questions, please let us know.